The way of the reliant. We are the reliant. We learn so that we may teach. We plan for adversity and cherish the privilege. We endeavor to master our emotions, embracing rational thought. We are not controlled by fear. We are not controlled by rage. We are not driven by greed. We are perpetually optimistic. We work tirelessly. Honor, virtue, humility, truth, and justice are what we strive for. Each of us provides for another and never just for ourselves. When others are surrounded by the darkness, we are the light to guide them. We are the reliant.
That should be it. There we go. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Apologies. I'm used to streaming on the other machine, so it is what it is, right? All right. So streaming and sharing. Sharing. All right. I'll start off with a little bit of protection here. This is a, how do they say, a live action role playing game. This is a LARP. This is a LARP. So I guess I'll just come out and say it. The reason that, thank you. The reason that fuck, how do I say this? Wow, this is hard. Ooh, do they not want me to talk about this? I just got cut for a second there. I wonder. And I wonder. So, you guys may recall I've got books and stuff like that. Rusted Blade is an example. Kind of Alice in Wonderland type deal. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So here's the thing. My entire life, up until fairly recently, um, it's been kind of a lie. Like growing up, I always felt like an outsider, and I always wore other people's skins. And what I mean by that, not Leatherface, like actually killing people or anything else, but like personality traits, um, ideological pieces, things of that nature. I would just put on and would assimilate in with a wide assortment of different groups. Sometimes these groups would be polar opposites, and yet I could effortlessly infiltrate and be part of those groups. And I never really stuck to one group. I always kind of was all over the place. And I called that being a chameleon. I was always able to blend in with people and things of that nature. And growing up, I always had these weird situations, weird memories and things of that nature. Like I remember waking up, pillow covered in blood, uh, at least five different times, and being told that my ears were bleeding, and then I had tubes in my ears, and I've had somewhere in the neighborhood of eight eight operations at an early age. Let's see, tonsils, tubes, eye, hernia. Um, so that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then what else was there? Uh, corrective operation 6. So 6 that I know for fact, but then I have fragmented memories of being put under. And I know because I metabolize really fast, and when I get put under now, or even when they were working on teeth or whatever else, whatever they're using to numb me up, it wears off really fucking stupid fast, and I end up feeling shit, and it's very problematic. But anyway, I also remember as a kid hiding a lot. I hid a lot. Like I would ditch class, like in the first grade, I'd ditch class and go hide in a bush under stairs. And then my mom would come to pick me up later, and I'd come out of the little bush area, and she didn't know I was hiding for quite some time. And then I remember there was a lot of physical therapy for I don't know why. I didn't know why anyway. I know now why, but I didn't know before why. And then there was also a lot of psychology visits where I was talking to this lady a lot. And then there were other things like EEGs being wired up, and those memories came back when my daughter had a seizure, and then they had to wire her up and check her while they did things like strobe lights and other things to see if they could trigger seizures. And then other oddities that in retrospect I know are odd, but at the time growing up, I didn't. It was just our life, so it wasn't really a big deal. But I remember one time we were going supposedly to Disneyland, and I have a memory where I'm stuck with a wire stuck through my arm. I'm on a fence. I'm stuck on this fence, and I can't remember how I got on this fence or why there's a stray piece of it sticking through my arm, and my dad's there pulling me off of it, and he just tells me, yeah, we're going to Disneyland. And now as an adult, I'm like, how is that possible that I suffer a wound where I have fence wire stuck through my arm, and I'm basically impaled on this fence, and I'm getting pulled off of it? And my dad's just reassuring me, saying we're going to Disneyland. And incidentally, I don't remember going to Disneyland on that day. And then there was all the martial arts training nonstop, and a lot more physical therapy. There were situations where my mom would drop me off at this place to talk to Dr. George, and he was I think he was an ear doctor, and I remember endless times. Oh, thank you. Blessings to you too. I remember doing the ones where, like, okay, if you hear a tone, push the button, beep, 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 like forever. And then a lot of IQ tests, a lot of, physical puzzles, stuff like that. And, growing up, I didn't really think a lot of it. It was like, okay, whatever. And then there were situations like my dog dying. I had a beagle. His name was Snoopy, and there was a lot of times where I would have like trauma or things going on at school, and I'd come home and I'd debrief with the dog. And this one day I was coming home. I was in a really good mood. I was super good, and I went looking for my dog. Couldn't find my dog. And my dad's in the living room, I think. And I'm like, hey, where's Snoop? And he's all, dog's dead. I'm like, what? You're dumb. He's not dead. No, he's not dead. You're full of shit. And he was like, no, go look in the trash in the garage. Dog's in the trash. And I'm like, what? Why would you? So I go out in the garage. Sure enough, I can see the lid on it. It's like this. There's a leg out, brown and white foot. I walk up. I hold on to it. And I just, emotionally, I'm just destroyed. Like my mind's breaking. Like I'm just completely distraught by this situation. And I asked my dad what happened to the dog, and he said dog got poisoned. Now here's the thing: when I was young, okay. My dad's telling me the dog got poisoned. That's it. That's all there was to it. Now as a grown man, we had two dogs in the backyard. We had a black lab and we had a beagle, and the black lab ate just as much as Snoopy did. So if somebody took poison meat, threw it over the fence, they both would have scarfed it and they both would have died. But the fact that Snoopy, who was quote unquote my dog, and Scrappy, who is the black lab, was my brother's dog, there was a really clear delineation on whose dog was who. The other thing is, how could my father have possibly known that the dog was killed with poison without some kind of an autopsy or something? You know, did he see the meat fly over the fence and the dog ate it and then the dog spazzed and died out? That's how he came to the conclusion. Or probably more likely is my father himself was the one who killed the dog to further traumatize me. So that that realization came a little bit later. What's up, Darren? Then a year or two ago, I had a family friend in town with his kids and whatnot, and one of his kids was dating this guy, and we really didn't like the guy, and my wife said, hey, let's go down to Trolley Square. So we went down to Trolley Square, which is kind of a historical spot for here in Utah, but there's also been some travesties that's happened there. Tragedies, I should say. There was a mass shooting that happened, one of Utah's famous ones. And so anyway, we go to the spot, and we're inside this location called Tabla Rasa, which has like a pen and paper and stuff like that. But they also have these little mini music boxes. So I was sitting inside of there, and they were testing these music boxes out, and there was a cacophony of sound. And I felt this floatiness that started from here, extended out, came back here, and then I got really lightheaded and felt a little bit overwhelmed and kind of a quasi panic attack. So I realized quickly it was the music boxes that were evoking this response, and so I fucking bounced out of there as quick as I could. And my friend noted it, and he followed me outside and said, are you okay? And I jokingly said, oh, I think it's the 𝐒𝐴𝐽 shit. I think that shit was kind of activating me. And I did it as a joke, but there was a part inside of me, there's another voice inside of me that says, you know what this shit is. And I was like, no, it's not. And so I kind of fought that thought and was like, whatever. So my family bought a bunch of music boxes, and we were sitting there at my my kitchen table hanging out. And the kid that we didn't really like, and it's not like I didn't like the kid to the point where I would be mean to him or anything else. It's just he had a lot of mannerisms and stuff that I didn't care for. He was just kind of irritating, right? So he's got this music box, and he's just going to town with it, making it go really fast. And all of a sudden I had this overwhelming desire and impulse to grab his head, slam it down on the table onto that music box until I can ingrain every cog, every little bit of metal that was in there into his brain. And it was an overwhelming urge. Like, I just was like, you know what, I'm just gonna smash his head in. And so I my friend must have saw it on my face, because he snatched the music box from the kid and said, you want to eat this? And the kid, you know, oh, what? And then I felt that floatiness, and I got up quick, and I went into the mud room, and I was just sitting there breathing. And my friend came and said, dude, you look like you were about to kill somebody. I said, yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. And that's when I started kind of going, this is weird. But again, I didn't do anything with it. Then I got a phone call last year about some private investigator investigating my father, my stepdad, Mel. And he was like, are you blood? Are you his blood? or your bloodline? And that question bothered me. It sat in my head as I, had the conversation with the guy. And then I got off the phone and I was really bugged. I was really bothered by the whole situation because there was something, a long dormant feeling. So my stepdad was always really hard on me, super hard. And I thought it was because I was the proverbial stepchild. And as a result, I developed really serious daddy issues because I didn't know my biological father well, and my stepdad was all that I had known, and he was really, really tough on me my entire life. And so I thought, maybe I deserved this or whatever else. And all I ever wanted as a kid growing up was just to, impress my dad. And there was only one time that he actually gave me any kind of positive affirmation, and he was high as a fucking kite. And it was a short time after that he took the family money and bounced. So, I always was kind of wondering about what the fuck, like, why did that happen? And so when the private investigator called up, a lot of thoughts started popping in my head. So then my pop died. I found out he died, and then we got in this whole big issue of trying to get his remains. Well, in the process of working through the remains and the group that I was dealing with, they needed information. So I started to hunt for as much information as I could about my father. And I have a little booklet where I wrote a lot of stuff down. But at the end of the day, my mom, for example, could not give me any real information. She spent over 20 plus years with this man married, and she couldn't. Hang on. Sorry about that, guys. She spent 20 plus years with him and didn't know next to anything. Didn't know his political leanings, didn't know if he had any military friends, et cetera, et cetera. And I found that to be very odd. And so, other than the fact that he was Air Force, and my mom's dad was Navy. So there's been weird things in our family, but out of respect for my family, I won't disclose those things other than say that there is hours upon hours of other oddness that I could discuss about my mom, cousins, things like that. But we won't go there. Then there were other oddities just with even my work life, my career. Always had a military involvement for the first few years of me kind of getting my footing. And I don't know how many times I've had people that were trying to get me actively engaged in military operations and things like that I just didn't do. And I always kept coming across very interesting people in different criminal endeavors. So there was things with the 𝐒𝐡𝐚𝐫𝐢𝐧𝐠, triad, Russian mob, etc., that I kept finding myself kind of in the middle of. And so whenever situations would get too precarious or dangerous, I would leave that area and go to another area. So I would just go. And it never really bothered me. I could just get up and go and just not really trip. My daughter recently came to me and said, "Dad, if you had to go somewhere and take another identity and live that, could you do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, easy, not a problem." I said, "But I wouldn't because, I have you guys and your mom and the dogs and and the cats and everything else. Like, you guys all depend on me, and I love you guys, and so I wouldn't do that." And so she's like, "Okay," and she walked away. But it bothered me because I realized I could do that. It wasn't like that was a hard thought for me to say, yeah, I can be somebody else. Jeremiah Jones. There you go. I could be Jeremiah Jones and not really trip on it. So I have always had a darkness in the pit of my gut that would extend to my heart that was always negative. It was a cold, it was like heartache, but it started in my gut. And it has been with me as long as I can remember. And it was really a big source of my depression that was always there. It was a really painful existence. And there was nothing I could do to alleviate that pain. I thought, oh, love will do it, or I thought, sex will do it. I thought success and money would do it. You have a suggestion for me? What's your suggestion, Garen? So, my wife came across a book about a monarch slave, 𝐒𝐡𝐚𝐫𝐢𝐧𝐠 monarch. And she was in Washington and she was reading this book and she was telling me, oh man, this book is crazy because there's locations in it where we've been. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so she starts talking about places I've lived. Like I grew up San Francisco. And in San Francisco, a lot of the places where I was going for counseling and the therapy and everything else was in the Presidio. And then we moved to Hawaii on the 𝐒𝐴HA side. There was a base over there. I ended up doing some stuff with Hickam Air Force Base, Schofield Barracks, and a few other spots. And then, of course, went back to the Bay Area, and then there was some time in Colorado and here in Utah. Well, come to find out, in the book, this lady is talking about a place where she was taking that was literally 2 blocks away from where we were previously living. And during the time we were living there is when this gal wrote this book. And so she's talking about the National Guard base that was down the street from us and a few other things. And I was like, holy shit, that's right here, right where we're at. And so I thought, oh, those are weird quinky dinks. And I have some peers that I grew up with. One is always being gang stalked and always has issues happening with her and her father. Her father also was military, and then he was, I think he got killed. I don't have the specifics on it, but she makes reference to, he was a healer, and they couldn't have that, and so they took him out. And but she lived in very similar areas that I lived in. And so that was also another thing. I was like, okay, this is weird too. Then I started having people coming up to me out of the blue and talking to me and saying things that were very, very odd, that were kind of out of place, kind of just weird things that people would say or whatever. And, there's a few times where I was getting in trouble and people were saying that I did things. And I was like, no, I didn't do that. It was some other fucking guy. And I would prove it by saying, did that guy have tattoos? And I'd show that I had tattoos. And they're like, no, he didn't have tattoos. I'm like, the guy just looks like me. It's not me. But I was having issues with people that looked exactly like me, by all accounts. And then I actually ran into these guys. And yeah, they looked just like me. But they were in a lot better physical shape than I was. And then I would tell them, dude, you guys are causing shit for me. I had a guy fucking pull a gun and misfire on me because he thought I was you. And I had a stripper come up and slap the shit out of me because of something you did to one of her friends. And the guy just chuckled and was like, oh, sucks to be you. So what did I do? I left that area as well. But these types of situations were common on a regular basis. I saw these all the time. And then, of course, I came to the platform on YouTube and started making videos. And then there was a point where I started to get very passionate and, speak out about certain things and stuff. And it was last year that I started to realize that perhaps I was being set up as, a patsy. Because if you look at all the crazy shit I've said through the years and everything else, and in the chopping videos and all the gear and guns and everything else that I have around me constantly, if there was a news story where they said, Robert Ricks, the Angry Jackalope, as he was known online, went bananas and caused a lot of damage or whatever else, there would be a very small group of people that would be, yeah, Rob didn't do that, right? And so I told my wife this. I said, I'm afraid with all the audio and videos that I've made, they could put out a deep fake really easily that would make me out to be this monster. And, could push whatever agenda they want, and that would be that. And then my wife thought about it, and she looked at everything, and she said, fuck, you're right. What are you going to do? I said, I'm just going to change the types of videos that I do, and I'm just going to whatever. I refuse to live in fear. So, that's that. So I did that. I stepped away from YouTube for a little bit, and I changed the format, and I did a lot more of these live videos, and I really kind of toned down the whole rhetoric of, the conspiracies and things like that, and I just kind of left it alone. I tried to anyway. But time kept going by, and more weird shit just kept happening. We were having ghostly type activities here in the house. The family was in complete disarray. There was a lot of drama between all of us. And things were just not in alignment. My faith with the Father and Jesus and everything was sound, and so was with the wife, but we were having problems with the children and things of that nature. And then, of course, I had operations and I had physical things and I had stuff that was going on. But I kept having memories of things. Like I discovered I had no inner ear. And I was like, that is so bizarre. I have no fucking inner ear. I don't get dizzy when riding in cars. I don't get car sick or any of the other stuff. It's just weird. I discovered I didn't have that, and they were like, you're gonna have to learn how to walk a certain way. And even when I was the most quote unquote disabled, there were times where I would fall, and as I was falling, I'd jump into a forward spin, a forward roll, I guess, and I would come up, and my daughter would look at me like, how the fuck did you do that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, you just did some ninja shit, I was like, I was trained from a kid all the way till now, like up till, not till now, but until I met my wife, roughly, is when I stopped training. And then I had a bunch of different weird things that kept happening. And I had a friend of mine reach out to ask about swords. I had swords. And I said, yeah, I got some swords. And then we had some idle chit chat and everything. And then we got to talking. About monsters and shit like that. And it was a time that I decided I was going to do Jeremiah Jones, and I was going to go ghost hunting and things like that. And so, of course, I didn't mind chopping it up over monsters or whatever. And then this person said, do you know about the parasites and stuff? And I said, no, I don't. And so he sent me PDF, and then the PDF I went through, and inside the PDF there was a thing about MKUltra. And then I said, hey, did you see the thing on the MKUltra? And he's like, yeah. And I go, dude, yeah, this shit's kind of crazy. And then he said, oh, I work with a gal who has been looking for monarchs. Monarchs are a term for the next generation of MKUltra, or the the mind control type things. And so I said, okay, yeah, I think I know a monarch she might be able to talk to. And he's like, cool, send me a photograph and the name of the person so she could, research it. Because, she's into woo woo. And so I was kind of like, eh. And I've always been kind of skeptical, but at the same time, open minded enough to look at the metaphysics and the mystical and esoteric stuff with kind of an open mind, right? So I said, okay. So I sent him my picture and my name, and he's like, what the fuck is this? Why are you sending me your stuff? I said, because I'm the monarch. And he said, what? So we got to talking on the phone, and I gave him some information, and he was like, yeah, hold the fuck on. And so he got her on the phone, and then she and I started talking, and she was like, okay, I'm going to check you out. And so basically it's astral projection. So she was in California, and she astral projected over here, and she examined me, and her results were really disconcerting, because she saw the different alts. She saw the different there was an assassin, there was a seducer, and there were a few other personalities that were in there. And I said, like, I never dissociate. I don't switch. I don't split. She goes, no, you can pull from them, and they haven't activated you. And she wrote, thorough breakdowns on them, ages, everything, and there were 7 total. So I had 7 distinct personalities inside of me that were ready to go. And she said they were segmented, and I was traumatized as a fetus. Now, a little background. I was born prematurely on a U.S. Army base in Seoul, Korea. And the story that my mom gave me was she went into labor early. She held her legs as long as she could until curfew was up. She went to the hospital. And then a doctor miraculously flew in from Japan to rig up an incubator and saved my life. And I remember when she told me that story, I thought, wow, I'm one of the luckiest motherfuckers on the planet, right, to have those types of miracles happen. And I always thought, that's a little far-fetched, but whatever. It's the story my mom's telling me. I'll go with it. Well, come to find out, they did some satanic ritual type shit where they harassed me in the womb, and then they caused the premature birth, and then they wanted to see if I would survive, because monarchs have to have a very strong self-preservation instinct, because that's what they will leverage with the trauma and the torture to get the soul traumatized and also break the mind. So if you break the mind as a fetus in the womb, then everything after that is a lot easier. So I was born. I, as a 2-year-old, witnessed a woman being murdered and put into a meat grinder, and I'm a 2-year-old child, and all the adults were laughing, and so it was reported to me that I was laughing too. But kids are going to laugh at whatever's going on. So there was a lot of weirdness that I saw, and then I can't really talk about that stuff because it talks about my mom and stuff that she had to go through, so we won't talk about that. But in any event, my biological father and her didn't make it out the way she had wanted to, and so she ended up with my stepdad, who I was raised with, and he was my father from when I was 3, I believe, 2.5, 3. So he raised me, and he was hard, but I loved him, and I didn't hold ill will towards him. I was jealous of my brother a lot of times, because my brother would get doted on, and me, I would have to constantly prove myself over and over and over again. And so that was funky, but it is what it is. So Lisa, she says, "Hey, I'm gonna go in again tomorrow," and I'm like, "Okay, cool." And so we had kind of a loose plan, and I thought it was going to be this long, drawn-out process of learning stuff about the alts and whatnot. And she said, "No, I have a methodology that was shared with me because it was told to me that monarchs are going to start waking up and they're going to be lost and they're going to need help." And I was like, "Okay, I'm down. You know, whatever we could do to make things better, let's do it." So she she came that night, and I was hearing a tone. There was a tone that I've been hearing for a long time, but this was like three different tones. One was a low whoa 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 whoa, and then there was two high ones that were kind of oscillating back and forth, and it was super loud. And I commented to my wife, I said, "Man, they are really blasting me with these fucking sounds. Like they really want me to kill myself, but you know it's not gonna fucking happen." And I went to sleep, but it was hard to sleep because of the noise, you know, these sounds that were being beamed. And so then, next day I wake up, and I feel really, really, really odd. And um, I'm on edge. I'm pacing the house. I feel like, you know, I'm about to, you know, get in a fight. What's up, Annette? I feel like I'm anxious, like, you know, shit's about to go down, about to go down, about to go down. And she hits me up a little later and she goes, "How you feeling?" I go, "I feel fucking restless. I feel angry and anxious, and I feel excited." I said, "I got all these goddamn emotions that's kind of flowing through me." She goes, "Yeah, it was a rough night, but we got everything to kind of reconstitute as a single entity." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I thought this was going to be something that was going to take some time. She said, "No, we worked on it last night, and you know, got rid of the bloodline demons, because I had two of them, two greater demons that were gatekeeping on my system, and then they had seven parasitic demons that were they were like cell guards. They watched each of the personalities, and you know, she was able, with the help of her guide and other methods that she used to get rid of the demons and whatnot, get to the actual core personalities, try to coax them out of their things. The assassin kept shooting at her, and I was laughing when she told me that. I was like, "That's hilarious. You got a fucking spiritual assassin in me shooting a fucking spiritual AR, trying to shoot you with fucking spiritual bullets, and it's not doing shit, but it doesn't know any better." So the whole time I'm just listening to this going, "This is ludicrous. This can't be real." And she said what they did is they reconstituted my fetus, which was really cold. Now here's a funny part. That night when I was going to sleep, my wife was rubbing my stomach, and the top of my stomach, the spot I was telling you where I have my darkness, where I always had the root of all my sadness. It's always icy cold there. And she was like, "Man, your stomach is like ice. Why is your stomach so cold? And the rest of your body's hot?" I'm like, "I don't know. That's where my darkness lives," is what I used to jokingly say. So the next day, when Lisa's telling me she reconstituted the fetus that had been traumatized before my birth, she said it was blue and it was sitting like on a block of ice, freezing, and it was in bad shape. And so what she did is each of the personalities would take turns holding the baby and then pushing some of the essence back to the baby. And when it finally got to the assassin was like, "I really don't want to fuck with that." You know, and took some coaxing, and he finally did. And then he cried and he cried and cried, and then there was like a bonding moment where there was acceptance that the assassin was me and I was the assassin. And then she said everything disappeared and became one being. And she said she saw me for what I would have been had not all of this stuff had happened, right? Now this is where the tricky dick weird shit happens. So the reason I was never activated is, and this is what was told to me, this is not what I'm claiming, but this is just what was told to me. was my soul sensed all of the trauma and everything that I was going through, and it said, yeah, fuck that noise. And so it created the alt number 7. And the alt number 7 purposely crippled me. And it's funny when she told me that, because I remember how I got hurt. I remember when I got hurt. I remember the situations around when I had other injuries. And I remember thinking to myself, that was really dumb that I was doing those things at that time. But for whatever reason, I had made that decision. Yeah, let's do this. And I fucked myself up. I blew L4, L5 in my back. I blew the disc in my neck. I've torn rotator cuff. And those were like the key ones, right? That really would sideline a person from an active engagement. So I thought, good for you, number 7. Good for you to cock block and not let these motherfuckers do shit, right? So I was like, okay, whatever. And so I told her beforehand, when she had first told me about the different alts, I said, number 7, leave in there. Because if number 7 was kind of a gatekeeper that was looking out for me, I don't want to get rid of 7. I want 7 to stay there. So when she did the recombining, she did 1 through 6. And 1 through 6 is ultimately what became me. So that day, I didn't know she had done all this stuff the night before. So we were downtown, and I was Mr. Laser decision. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Like, there was no, so what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I just was taking command of everything, which my wife thought was really odd. Then we went to this spot, and as we were at the spot, I was spotting, more than normal. Like, here's the entrance, here's the exit. There's 18 people in here. Out of the 18 people, 2 are threat. Out of those 2 threat assessments, 1, he's far enough away, if he does anything, have time to do whatever. And 1 was really close, and so I ended up just watching him the entire time. And I thought, what the fuck, Rob? Relax. What the fuck's wrong with you? And then we went to pick up pastries for the family, and I looked at it. I'm like, ooh, I want that. I want that. And I just like crackhead. I want that. And I got a bunch of different shit. And I went home and I was eating some of it. And I'm like, I don't have a sweet tooth. Why do I want this shit? Well, then when I talked to her, she said, yeah, you're going to have to get used to all of the thoughts and the urges and everything else that they had separate, because they're now integrated. So the assassin part of me was not happy. Like, I was looking at myself critically and going, what a fat fuck. We got to fix this shit. And then I just started working out like a beast. I just was working out. Me and my son just constantly working out. And then I was grabbing a bow staff and I was training with that. And I was tearing up the punching bag with this fucking staff. My wife's looking at me really concerned. And at that time I was walking around. I still had, like, kind of gear. Just like this, like all my blades, guns, everything. I had the little bros on me, and they're like, you planning on going out and handling some shit or what? And I'm like, oh, no, this feels comfortable, right? It's just, I don't know, just like it. And so then my other vest showed up, the black one here, and so I took off all of the blades and everything, and I just put flashlights on that. And I said, fine, I'll just put the flashlights and shit on that jacket, and I'll keep 1 fob, because you should always have a blade regardless, right? So, but my wife was really concerned, because she was like, you are not acting like you. And I was just other bits and pieces were starting to come back in. Like, I remember one time I was taken to a party, Victorian house, was brought upstairs, and this guy was like, hey, and I was a kid, I was 7 years old. It's like, hey, there's some toys and stuff under the bed there. And I went under the bed, and there was some stuff down there. And then I heard some stuff behind me. I turned around, and he was naked, and he had wood. And I'm 7, I don't know what's going on. And he proceeded to rape me. And then the rest of that I don't remember, but I remember talking to my mom later about it. I think the same night, telling her what happened, and she was like, "No, honey, that didn't happen." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I remember being really confused by that and really mad. And then there was another time where I was at the doctor's appointment, and had a black kid there, and he was coloring. It's just me and him in his waiting room. No other adults. And they had the receptionist window was open. I could see the lady there. I still remember her glasses. And I grabbed one of the crayons because I was going to color with it. And this kid got up and just beat the shit out of me. I mean, this kid beat me until he got tired. And the whole time I'm screaming, I'm telling the lady to help me, and nobody's helping me. And so I'm just covering because I don't really know what to do. I didn't have the rules of engagement. And so finally the kid got tired. He walked away from me, sat down, and started coloring again. And it was at that time my mom walks in. And she's like, "Oh, honey, what are you doing on the floor?" I said, I just got my ass kicked by that kid right there because of a crayon. And this lady wasn't helping me. No, honey, that's fine. No, you go have your appointment. And then I went in and had this fucking appointment. And, you know, I asked my mom, how often did I see the shrink lady? She said, you saw her twice a week for 2 hours. I said, 2 hour sessions twice a week. I said, who was paying for it? She goes, the city of San Francisco. I go, wait, why was the city of San Francisco paying for it? She goes, oh, it was a grant or something we got because multi-ethnic family, whatever. And I was like, bullshit. I said, how long did I go there? And she's like, oh, you went there for a couple of years, you know? So 2 years, twice a week, 2 hours, and I have like no memories really of those sessions. So it was all weird shit. So anyway, Lisa combines everything. And I was running suicidal for a long time. I mean, if me and my wife got in a fight, first thing I was thinking of is, oh yeah. And then I also would say shit like, oh, I can't wait to die. And, you know, if I die, I'm going to dance with the Grim Reaper and blah, 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 blah. So Lisa had done her thing of combining everything, and I'm like, holy shit, you know, I feel weird. I have energy like just won't stop. And of course, I felt all of this before we talked. So then I started thinking, oh, this is psychosomatic. I'm making this shit up. You know, I'm believing the woo woo, and it's you know it's you know it's a placebo or whatever. Well, a couple days later, the wife, she's hearing a tone, and then she's shitty as fuck, and we just start beefing and fighting, and we got in a huge fight. And at one point, I stopped her and I said, hey, not to be fucked up, I know we're fighting and everything, but like, I don't want to die. And she said, what? I go, this is the first fight we've ever had where I don't want to swallow a bullet, where I feel fine. Like, if you want to leave, you can leave. You want to, you know, divorce, you can get a divorce. Like, I'm good. Like, I feel great. And I said, I'm not happy about this fight or anything, but I feel great. I think something happened, something very weird that I can't explain happened. And we made up the next day, and she was like, you know, it's the fucking tones, man, these sounds, and suddenly I get really angry and da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, they beam shit in our heads all the time, all the fucking time. Like, even right now, I can hear it beaming. Beep. There's just these sounds that I hear. But that was the evidence that I needed. And so then I renewed my praying, and I prayed about this, about telling people, because it sounds ridiculous, it sounds ludicrous, but I needed to do this because every other piece that has happened after this requires explanation. Why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I say what I say, why I believe what I believe. And you know, since I've started going down this road, there has been a lot of oddness. And I am very, very aware that the devil is real, and the devil can do miracles, and the devil can do a lot of things. But I never asked for any miracles. I never asked for anything. I've been content just to do my thing and keep pushing. And my family, we are all aligned great. Everybody is getting along better than ever. We're all dealing with our own things, and I'm proud of my family for the way that they do things. There was haunting, weird shit that was going on. Come to find out, both of my dads were in this very office, beefing with each other, breaking and tearing apart cables and stuff. And, you know, Mariah, who sleeps in this room right over here, 3 o'clock in the morning, would just hear this office go crazy. And she would tell me about it, but I wasn't hearing what she was saying. But then, we dealt with that. So I dealt with daddy issues. I dealt with, the core sadness that was always there, making me crave death. All these different things have been reconciled in a relatively short amount of time. And when I asked Lisa, I said, everything I've read about recombining the alts and everything else is measured in decades, not in days. How the fuck were you able to do this? And then she said it was explained to her by her guide that the CV stuff, the 𝐶𝐞𝐫 stuff, was a severe imbalance, and they really overreached. And because of all of the darkness and negativity that caused the world to flip-flop, the light workers were then in turn given information to help bring balance and help others. And she was told specifically to look out for monarchs because they're going to need help. And it was a very short period of time after that where I got introduced to her. She was like, holy shit, you are a legit fucking monarch that I can work with. And she was like, Father, if this works and if what everything is being told to me is actual, I will dedicate my life to helping and do what you guys have been telling me to do. Because she got pulled into this kind of kicking and screaming too. And when I told her, I don't feel the sadness anymore inside, and I don't feel the suicidal urge that was there on a daily basis, she cried. She was very moved by it. And that's what she needed to know, that she needed to put that work in. And so I told her, yeah, I'm going to do my part. And I really didn't want to. I really wanted to keep a lot of this just for me. But I also feel, because I know I have a lot of peers, I have a lot of people that that are monarchs too, that are going to need help. And so this is kind of a thing. If you find this and you're a monarch, reach out to me. I'll get you in touch with Lisa. And if she can do for you what she did for me, holy shit. To say I feel like a new person would be a gross understatement. I am happier than I've ever been. I love life. I don't crave death. I crave a life where I live, where I affect change and I help people and I bring love and I help people to find a path, whatever that path may be for them. I didn't have religion my entire life. My faith found me. And then through a very crooked set of roads, I ended up with my belief where it is. And, I ended up getting bits and pieces of information from number 7. Just thoughts and synchronicities and weird stuff that I'll share with you guys all in different videos. This is too much to go into one video, and I'm gonna keep this under an hour. And I don't even know if I'll leave it up, because I just don't know yet what's what. But I felt I should, at the very least, for the ones that do come here, give that explanation of what's been going on with me. And magic stuff like that, that's real. Dark side shit, that's real. But there's also light side. And what I learned was everything, no matter how good or how bad it is, has to happen. And this will all make sense later too. It's a whole nother thing. But coming to these realizations and coming to the understanding of what my family and extended family was submitted to and has endured, put everything in perfect context. Like, I don't hate my stepdad for being the handler of my mom and me. I don't. I loved him. And it was obvious to me that he loved us, which is why he left and was so fucked up on drugs. He was just so guilt torn about the shit that he done that he just couldn't live with himself. and it never stopped me from loving him anyway. And my biological father, same deal. He was told a lie that I was going to be used for great things, and he couldn't be part of my life, and that was part of his sacrifice for being in the army and blah blah blah. And so he kept that distance until he died. And then when he died, he saw the truth. He said, well, fuck that, I need to be by my boy. So then he was over here hanging out. And of course, my stepdad's ashes are here. So he was here. And then the biological father came not very happy with shit. And so that required some activity to deal with that. And then there's things like teleporting flies and glasses breaking. There's a ton of shit we can go through at some other point. But suffice to say, the Riggs household has been very interesting long time, and even more so, but now finally, after everything was said and done, now there's a sense of peace here in the house. Outside world's crazy. It just always is. It's always going to be. But I wanted to do this video just to give you guys explanation on what I was going through, and then also just to share with you guys, even though the trauma is there for me to see now, and the lies are revealed for the truths and all the other stuff, I don't hate my mom, I don't hate my dad, I don't hate my grandfather, I don't hate the people that were involved or anything else. But it has helped foster with me gratitude, understanding, compassion, and the power of love. I've heard people on before on YouTube say I love you guys, and I've always thought that was like really hokey bullshit. But I do indeed love you guys. Like, especially folks that are watching this, because there's not a lot of people that watch these anymore. But the ones that do watch it, the ones that I make these videos for, you know who you are, and I do love you guys. I love you like the brothers and the soldiers and, you know, comrades from previous lives and everything from before. This is not our first life hanging out, and it won't be the last. But the gratitude is something I lead with every day. I wake up and I tell the Father everything that I'm grateful for. I go through, and that list is long. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. And realization, I think you have more EDC flashlights I've invested I actually own. I just stepped my game up. Dude, I ordered more too. My wife is going to kill me. Like, I got more flashlights. This concept of bringing a light to the darkness is just, it's just OCD stuck in me. It's retarded. So, were the alts the source of your characters on here? You know, it could have been. It could have been. Damien probably was the assassin. The thoughts that would come in my head on use of certain things definitely came from a position of leveraging information. I'll get the list. I have a 13-year-old. I had a 13-year-old, a 7-year-old, 39-year-old assassin. The seducer was 20-something. And then there was the baby, 13-month baby. Not the fetus, but the baby. And then there's some other stuff. But yeah, I'll get that list together. But I definitely think some of the characters and some of the personas and stuff, those were definitely mixed in with my mind, and it's nuts. Like, I sit here objectively and I look at this, I'm like, dude, this sounds completely fucking retarded. You sound like an idiot. But then I've been living this, and the things that happened after, man, my wife became the biggest believer when we started to be observed and recorded. I mean, we're sitting at a restaurant, and somebody would come in, you know, after we've been there for like 20, 30 minutes, and this person would sit like this across from us with the watch the whole time facing us. You know, doing this, you know, drinking and stuff, but keeping that watch trained on us. And it started pissing my wife off. Really started pissing her off. And I'm like, let it go. It's not worth it. And then she was like, why are they doing that? Are they just recording us or what? And then it occurred to me at one point, I think what they were doing is they were monitoring um, auras and energy level and stuff like that. I think they were thinking I'm going to go Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan. But I joke, I'm joking, but I that was the only thing I could come to because it kept becoming very obvious. Like there was one time a guy was sitting on the other restaurant and he held his phone up like this, just held his phone up the whole time he was eating, faced in our direction. And then we had a run in with human traffickers. I mean, the shit that we have gone through this last month and a half, bananas, bananas. So I just wanted to put this out and share. And it is rough. Like I disclosed this information to my boss. I told him straight up, and he's super religious. But I needed to run it past him because, you know, if I'm doing videos talking about monarchs, my fear was people grab onto the negative and then they wear those. So ADHD has become a huge prevalent thing. Dissociative identity disorder has become a huge thing. People are popular, making it a popular thing, and acting it out. And those are adverse conditions, symptoms of um, symptoms of abuse. And so I had a fear about coming out and sharing this because I didn't want people to take this shit and glamorize it and say it's super fucking cool. I don't know the full ramifications of what was what. All I was told was I was put with my wife specifically to make my kids. And, you know, every parent's going to say their kids are extraordinary. But my kids are fucking extraordinary. They're amazing to me. Just the shit that they do and the things that they go through, and it's just amazing to me. But and I witnessed things as they were born and things that were happening, and I just thought those were normal things for my family's bloodline. And it turns out they're not. So I was like, okay. But you know, my wife, she's always had interesting things about her, and you know, now we revel in it. We kind of sit back and kind of chuckle and laugh, and you know, we are kind of just exploring and trying things out. And my wife's got a wonderful heart. She just wants to help people. She just wants to heal, hence her being a nurse. And it was funny because once I got reconstituted as one person, I was like, cool, now I can go kill these bad guys, right? And I was told, no, you're not supposed to do that. You can't go kill bad guys. I'm like, well, what the fuck? You know, I got all this training, I got all this other stuff. I mean, what, I can't take out the bad guys? I was like, no, you can't. That's disrupting the balance. And I said, son of a bitch. So that's when I took most of the gear off and was going with the flashlights and everything. I put this vest on today with the guns and the knives and everything because this was symbolic. I have a lot of projects that need to get done, and they're just dragging and dragging. So I told myself, I'm going to kill these projects today. And so I geared up and said, okay, I'm geared up, mindset's ready, let's go kill some shit. And this video is one of the things that I've been putting off for a while. And I said, fuck it, let's do it, let's go. And so I put the vest on, geared up, put the gun on, put everything, loaded up for bear, and sat down and proceeded to do this video. And so it is what it is. I'm not telling people to believe this. I'm not telling people not to believe this. I'm just giving you an honest account of the things that I discovered. And there's a lot more, but you know, I'm not going to drag my mom into it. I'm not going to drag other family members into it until they're comfortable. Just because it's a lot of stuff. But I figured, okay, this sets the stage, and now when I write stuff and I put stuff out, then there's a point of context that people will understand. And you know, like I was telling my day job boss, I said, look, I'm not trying to become some cult leader. I'm not trying to be some fucking guru. I'm not trying to have followers or anything else. In fact, anything that I write, I'm going to give out for free. And then if somebody wants, like, you know, a color version or something that's more produced or whatever, they can buy that. But the information that I create will always be available to anybody that wants it, right? So I'm not trying to charge people for answers that I think I come across. And at the end of the day, I would challenge anybody who listens to what I say to go formulate your own thoughts, to go live life. I don't want followers. I want teachers. I want people that go and discover shit, and then they share with me, and I learn and you learn. And that way we grow together, you know? Yeah, you know, it's funny, Garen, I was actually working on a book called Bloodline. And that's a book that I'm working on, but I'm also going to put out a real book, not a fiction book, but a nonfiction book, where I share stuff, and then it's also tips and stuff on getting your life together. Trauma is something that we all deal with. It's something that plagues people on a regular basis. The Snoopy story I told you about, Lisa took me through an exercise, and as I went through the exercise, I cut the emotional payload of that memory. That's how I'm able to tell you guys the story and not get teary-eyed. Like, I'm still sad that the event happened, but I'm not torn up over it anymore. The same as I can tell you that I was raped. The same as I could tell you, you know, how somebody forced me at an early age to do oral sex with them. And I can say it, and it doesn't make me cringe, because I have removed the emotional payload of those, and I can share with you the method on how to do it. But these types of training you don't find anywhere. You don't have a lot of people explicitly telling you that, guess what? You have a choice. You're choosing to hold on to the emotional aspect of things, and that's what just cripples people beyond the time that it should, because that's what society tells us that we have to do. I'm here to tell you, bullshit. I'm living proof that you can be whole and you can be happy, but it comes down to belief, and it's something that you have to reconcile in your mind. So, yeah, I have a bunch of books coming out on that stuff, and those will all be free. And then I also will be doing the things on YouTube for you guys to experience and take away whatever you want. You know, because the idea here is to create a healthy environment on how to deal with life and enjoy life and see things for the blessings that they are, and be filled with gratitude and love and everything, and try to make the world a better place one person at a time, starting with ourselves. So I share all this negative, nasty shit because it's important for other monarchs. If you're a monarch, holler. I'll get you in touch with Lisa, and then you guys can talk. And she will be able to better figure out what you need to do. And reality is, I can never pay her back for what she's done. And she, in turn, said she can never pay me for what she's learned while working with me. So, collaboratively between the two of us, we figured out what could work for some people. I recently came in contact with another, well, actually I came in contact with two different monarchs, but one I just left. I didn't bother to talk to. I didn't try to intervene or help because it was just too much for me to handle at that particular moment. But one person I reached out to, who was supposed to be the big bad boogeyman of the family, I tracked his ass down and started talking to him. And come to find out, he's severely broken. Like, he's so broke in his mind that he keeps referring to himself in the third person, and he is just really in bad shape. But he's a monarch controller that is just burned out, and they threw his ass away. And I keep wondering, you know, I was told they invested all this money in me and they spent all this time working with me and everything else. And logically, in my mind, I'm like, well, then why would they just let it go? That's why I'm still kind of, I'm apprehensive over all of this, because I don't know what's actual, what's factual, what's what's real and what's not real, because everything that I thought would happen after didn't happen. I mean, yeah, there's extra people watching us, and there's, you know, weird things, and I'm good at spotting them now. They don't even try to hide it. It's pretty funny. I get followed all the time in the cars. Cigarette butts on the side of the house where people are kind of just standing around doing whatever. But yeah, like none of that bothers me at all. Like I'm like, fine, whatever. But I'm always wondering, you know, is there some way they can fucking bucky my ass and snatch me up and throw me in a chair and start throwing words at me again? According to Lisa, no, they can't now, because there's no more bloodline demons inside of me to force the alt. The alts are now combined inside, so I don't have any more alts except for number 7, and that's a special one. Oh shit, I gotta go. All right, guys, I gotta go do shift change. This went longer than I thought. You guys be safe. Love you guys, and I will do more. All right, guys.